Hi, I'm Tim. Welcome to Watch You Want, and thanks for logging on. Today, we're looking at the Audemars Piguet Royal Oak chronograph, reference 26320ST. You can see this 41mm stainless steel Royal Oak chronograph and buy it on our website, watchyouwant.com. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, Watch You Want Inc. if you enjoy these videos, and click on the card in the upper right-hand corner of this screen at any time to see our full listing for this watch with additional accessories included, high-resolution images, and naturally complete pricing details. On the wrist, 6 1/3 inches, 16 centimeters in circumference, this 2012 to present redesign of the original Royal Oak chronograph is broader with greater stance and presence than its predecessor. Now, the original was 39 millimeters and hailed from the late 90s. This one being 41, redesigned in 2012, has a broader dial. It stretches out, it splays out more, and it better holds up on a large wrist, finally bridging the gap between the original Royal Oaks and the offshores. This one's a nice intermediate size with intermediate presence for those who don't quite want to go offshore, so to speak. It's also wonderfully thin compared to the offshores. Being only 11 millimeters thick, you can see with the sloped and polished bezel, it is easy to fit this one underneath a dress cuff or a tight sleeve. Now, from lug to lug, the watch does really show its stuff. A full-sized modern reference, this watch is 52 millimeters from lug to lug, but perhaps the most telling measurement is taken from the outermost point of the bracelet plot, the intermediate links that hold the bracelet to the lug, and their counterparts on the other side. Now, they do flare out rigidly, such that the ultimate lug-to-lug span of the watch is really a little bit more like 54 millimeters lug-to-lug. It's broad and it's flat, and that's the character of the watch. Now, you can see the bracelet is quite a highlight of any Royal Oak, but on this particular model, it's the combination of stainless steel in satin and polished finish that really gives the watch immense character. No need for two-tone. There's plenty of contrast here. You can see everything from the gorgeous satin finish of the tops to the beautiful hand-laid polished bevel along the flanks of the links. Beautifully made. A great part of what you're paying for with any Royal Oak, whether traditional or offshore, is the amount of work done by artisans on the metal itself. And there are thoughtful ergonomic upgrades to the basic bracelet in that large channels are carved out from underneath the links, allowing them to move and flex on the wrist without pinching skin or pulling hair. Now, it's such a finely finished bracelet that although you can see the taper, visually it does narrow out. You can't quite feel the steps between the links as they neck down. It's that beautifully made to that kind of tolerance. Now, the double deployment clasp is a great solution for a smaller wrist because it allows two folds, not the one big up and over that can sometimes pinch and pin skin on a smaller wrist. You'll also know that it has a robust twin trigger action, so this one can't accidentally pop open. It's not friction fit, and when it is locked, it's very secure. It's also very low in profile, not having the large clasp volume or stack height that you see on modern dive watches, which are often excessively built, and quite frankly, this is really the origin of the modern luxury sports watch, the Royal Oak family, and the company continues to do a good job of straddling the fence between a versatile dress reference and a contemporary sports reference. Now, contemporary, for the most part, is the integration of larger size, outright dimensions, into the original watch's Gerald Genta-inspired proportions. At a glance, you can't immediately tell that it's 41, just that it is broad and impressive. You can see that the dial's been opened up with the indices stretched out to the periphery, and on the inside you can see a high-polished inner bezel. Now, that has the effect, I like to say, of a restaurant where you have mirrors on opposing walls, creating the impression of a much larger interior space. Visually, it extends the beautiful silver tapisserie dial, making the watch appear just a little bit larger. Now, in terms of metalwork, the case and the bezel are just as impressive as the bracelet. You can see that the top of the bezel, octagonal in the Royal Oak tradition, is satin finished with a brushed grain, and the inset white gold high polished hexagonal bezel bolts are just slightly countersunk to create a little bit more texture, a little bit more differentiation, another plane of focus for the eyes. And of course, on its periphery, the bezel is beautifully polished, and in the tradition of the original Royal Oak, just the slightest sliver of the bezel gasket itself can be seen. It was an early attempt to take the inside of the watch and bring it out. Ultimately realized in the 1993 Royal Oak Offshore, this watch is far more discreet and takes after the original 1972 example. But the dial is very much modern. From 1972 until 2011, Audemars Piguet purchased its tapisserie dials from Stern Creations, part of the Stern family empire. Yes, those Sterns of Patek Philippe. From 2012 to present, the dials have been created by Audemars Piguet on their own vintage-style pantograph etching machines. The old-fashioned way of making a dial, now entirely in-house. You'll also note that the classical tri-compax layout of the dial leaves it beautifully balanced, and with the 41mm watch, the complications have just a little bit more room to breathe, and the indices can be extended just a bit more. You can also see that the watch, which is, I'm going to activate the chronograph, a vertical clutch column wheel automatic chronograph, is very smooth in action. Now, if you don't like sub-register seconds, this is an easy one for you. Because of the vertical clutch engagement, courtesy of the caliber 2385 based on the Frederic Piguet 1185, there is no additional wear and tear on the movement when you run the chronograph. Plus, because of the vertical clutch, it stops without stagger, starts without jump, and when you do reset it, it always resets precisely to the index at 12. 40-hour power reserve, it has a 21,600 vibration per hour beat rate. You can see that there are screw-down crowns and pushers and a screw-fixed case back, but the watch has 5 ATMs, so I don't recommend it for aquatic use. However, it is a very versatile reference aesthetically, works just as well with long sleeves and short. Handsome, timeless, and in the 41mm size, a legitimate sports watch alternative for those who don't quite want to step up to the bulk of the 42mm Royal Oak Offshore. You can see this Audemars Piguet Royal Oak chronograph reference 26320 ST and buy it on our website, watchyouwant.com.